Hey YouTube, today we're going to be taking a look at an IYV, an unusual Vietnamese guitar company, and this is a PRS Style, hollow body style guitar that we're going to be taking a look at today. So this is my first IYV. I've noticed them on the market for a while and very interested to see what they offer here. So stay tuned as we unbox and take a look at this IYV guitar. And there we have it, the IYV PRS hollow body style. And this, I'm not sure, maybe this wasn't intended for the American market. It's got, I assume, a Vietnamese script. It's got an Asian script on the truss rod cover, but very nice looking at this headstock. It's got very nice iridescent inlay on the headstock, and there's your quality control sticker, and it actually has a proper serial number and everything. Take a look at my recent review of that $100 Groat. That's one of those that the only way you even know it's a Groat is it's got a sticker on the head that you can just scrape right off. It's got no serial number or any other identifying feature on it. This is much more of a legitimate guitar. And looking at this thing, I'm really impressed. IYV is an upstart kind of guitar company, a Vietnamese guitar company. So this is made in Vietnam, and it's, of course, patterned off of the PRS, but as you can see, they've done their own thing with the inlay. Now, this IYV inlay might be too much for some people's aesthetic, and, you know, I think it is pushing it a little bit, but it's very, very well done. Very, very well done. They've got this perloid ivy going up, and really, really a beautiful fretboard. Very nice coloration, very nicely mated onto the neck. It's got a nice, I assume this is copying the thin wide PRS profile. It's a nice wide profile, relatively flat. It's got some nice jumbo frets on it. And the frets are, you know, it's a budget guitar, so the frets are, they could be polished more, of course, but I'm not feeling any like sharp edges. Just, it could use more refinement, and that's something that would be pretty much universal for guitars in this price range. But very, very nice, and love this vintage burst here. It's got the maple, flame maple styling with the vintage burst. Gorgeous coloration. Gorgeous coloration. The back is not black. It's actually like a very subtly translucent, deep maroon, brown, red color matching the neck. It's got the set neck and very nicely sculpted. Very, very nicely mated and sculpted. You know, this is a $200 to sub $200 guitar, and whew, this thing is nice. It's very, very lightweight. Very lightweight. The knobs, I like these. Nicely rounded, polished, knurled knobs. It's got binding on the inside of the F holes. The binding is very nicely done. Not perfect, but very, very nice. Nothing that, you know, is just absolutely bad or wrong. There's a couple little minor rough spots, but nothing serious. Very nice with this cutaway here going back into the binding. I mean, this is my first IYV, and this is very nice. This is surprisingly nice. Now we'll see how it plays, but just looking at the out of the box setup, I mean the action is actually quite low, and I mean just very, very nice. I'm really surprised by this. This is the quality of the craftsmanship here is very impressive, and the neck is a gloss finish neck, but I can see looking at it that it's been well buffed. That is, that you can just see, particularly, let me get the light on it here, how nice and smooth it is. It's been very, very well buffed. Very, very nice. I mean, this is surprising for a price in this, for a guitar in this price range. This is really surprising me. Now we'll see how well it plays. I'm going to give it some time to adjust and, you know, get settled in before I tune it up and stretch the strings and so forth. But initially, now this is like many other budget guitars that there was, you know, there was just the little Allen wrench packet in there, but there was no like warranty card or, you know, information about the company or anything. It's just, here's a guitar. And like I mentioned with, I don't know what the deal with the truss rod cover, maybe this wasn't even intended for an American market, I don't know. I bought it off of Amazon, and this is not sponsored. I bought this with my own money, and I've watched IYV for a while. They've got a number of, one of the things that has kind of caught my eye about it is that they have these, not just your usual Strat, Les Paul, Telecaster, you know, maybe an SG, something like the basic clones that you see in a lot of companies that are trying to get into the guitar market. They've got, you know, they've got PRS styled guitars. They have a Rickenbacker styled guitar. So they've got some interesting, they are copies basically, you know, stylistic copies of other guitars, but they're not just the usual only a, you know, Strat, a Telecaster, Les Paul, the ones that everybody copies. Like this is a little tougher to do. You got an archtop, double F-hole, hollow body. I mean, that's, you know, this takes some craftsmanship. This is some work right here. And for being a factory guitar, this is very impressive. So I'm going to let it settle in overnight, and tomorrow we'll get back on it and see how she plays once I got her tuned up and settled in. Alright, so I've had a couple days to let it settle in, stretch the strings, let it acclimate and so forth, and take a little closer look at it. And so my initial impression holds that this is a surprisingly nice guitar. I mean, for the money, this is ridiculously well put together. Now, the issues with it, okay, so the pros, I mean, you're getting a heck of a lot of guitar for your money. So overall, my just upfront recommendation is I think this is absolutely a great guitar, but it's going to need more finishing. It's going to need more setup, and not just a little, you know, tuning and intonation. This is going to need, particularly on the fretboard, considerable setup. So, but let's look at the rough spots. Overall, very nice presentation, very nice craftsmanship, no glaring issues craftsmanship-wise and aesthetics and so forth. But let's take a look a little closer. It's not a huge issue. It's nice that they have the binding on the F-holes, but it's a little rough. It's a little rough. You can see that little thing hanging there. And so I really, to get this nice, I'm going to need to very carefully come in and polish the lower edge of that. It's just a little rough, and it's rough all the way around. It's not just one bit, but, you know, I'm getting a little bit of chunks. It's rough. It needs some sanding right at that edge, right at that lip. And not a big deal. Something you can just do in a few minutes. And I understand they have to crank these out at a fast pace to meet this price. So this is stuff that is absolutely within the range of normal expectations for a guitar of this price, especially one that's so nicely manufactured overall. So, you know, that's a little bit an issue. And the binding on the inside is a little bit sloppy. It's you know, rather incredible that they even have binding on the F-holes. A lot of guitars at this price point are just going to leave that off and just have a sanded edge. So it's nice that it has that, but not perfect. And I mentioned before, the binding is not perfect. There's a little, you see that bit right there. There's a little clip there where the paint, you know, under the clear coat came a little bit of issue, but just very, very minor. Very, very minor. Nothing glaring. You know, this is only stuff that you see when you're really getting in close and taking a very close look at it. I'm very impressed overall with the bodywork, and the, you know, it's not perfect. There I see a few little dimples in the clear coat. You know, it's not perfect, but it's not bad at all, and it's only, again, stuff that you notice when you see it at just the right angle with just the right light. But the sculpted neck in particular, beautiful. Very well joined there, very nice job on all of that. Nice buffing, the neck is nice and plays well. The major problem in terms of why I'm not really going to record much with it at this stage is simply that the fretwork is in need of more work. And I mean here by leveling. The action is reasonably low which for budget guitars, they usually come higher than this, and that's for good reason. You hear all that string buzz? A lot of string buzz, and you get like real buzzy dead notes up here. I mean, you can't, and this has got 24 frets, so this is a true double octave here. You know, very nice, but especially this upper register here is mostly flat. Ding, 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 ding. You hear that? And I've already got a video on fret leveling. It's a relatively easy thing to do. So if you get a guitar, this one or otherwise, and it's making these kind of sounds, your immediate thing you can do is just simply to raise the strings, to raise the action. In this case, that would be to raise it by turning. This has got the wraparound bridge, so it's a one piece, and it's reminiscent of the old like 60s and 70s Asian guitars in particular, and budget guitars of that era that had just a rigid bridge with cut paths for the strings, but you really couldn't, except for maybe like a screw here, you could do slight adjustments, but you couldn't do a full proper intonation on them. This is, again, copying the PRS wraparound style, and so it does have, because you've got a screw on each side, and then this piece here can move, so you can do more intonation. I still don't really like these kinds of bridges, and there are one-piece bridges out there that work differently, that have the little, you know, regular screw sets, and so I'm probably going to replace this with one of those. I just don't really care for these wraparound bridges. My preference would be to have the actual, you know, tune-o-matic bridge, full pull-through down there, but I don't think I'm going to go through the effort of, you know, mounting that extra piece. There are tune-o-matic single-piece bridges, and I'll probably replace this with that. I just have to make sure the measurements are right and so forth. But it's okay, and you also end up, again, I don't really care for these. I think the grooves need to be cut a little bit deeper. You hear that? Wow, wow, wow. That harmonic. And if you hear that sound, sometimes you almost hear like a sitar sound where it's like there's this octaving happening, this weird harmonic that happens in there, and it's generally one of two things, and that's going to be either your bridge or your nut. And the way to figure out is to play it. If you get that, let's see, wang, there it is. I mean, you can, like, I can hear that it's coming from down here, not from up here, but the way to check that is just to fret, and it's still there. So I know it's not the nut, it's the bridge. On the nut, it's generally speaking, if you get that sitar sound, you just need to do a minor bit of filing and, you know, just make sure that it's nice and clean and smooth in there. Because usually what it is, it's just the very edge of the string hitting the tiniest little bit of the nut, and it gives this extra weird sound. And it can drive you nuts. But it's very easy to do. You just take the string off. You can just basically lower the string tension, pull it to the side, and clean out the nut cavity. And usually that's all it takes. It usually doesn't take a lot of work. The bridge in this case being metal, I think it just needs to be filed down a little bit. I think that it's sitting in that groove. The groove is not deep enough, and it's allowing the string to slightly buzz against the metal, which is what's giving that sound to it. So that's another relatively easy fix, and, you know, not a big deal. But I would not say that this is a beginner guitar in the sense that this is not going to be playable right out of the box. It's got a lot of fret work that needs to be done. It needs to be leveled. Things like that, a beginner wouldn't know that that's not what your D string is supposed to sound like. And, you know, that's not a good sound. It's not a good sound. So, you know, I think this is easy to remedy, but these are the kind of things that only more experienced guitarists would be able to do. So if you are a beginner and you're looking at a guitar like this, the best thing to do would be to either have someone you know help you with the setup, or to bring it to a local music shop, luthier, that sort of thing, a guitar tech, and let them, you know, do the things that are needed to be done, the leveling, the fretwork, and so forth, to bring this up to par. That generally is going to run you about $100, depending on the level of setup involved. So it's not cheap to have done, but with a guitar like this, this has got really, really great features at a tremendous price, a ridiculously low price. So, you know, to get a really properly playing guitar out of this, it's going to need a little work. Not a big deal, but it is going to need work. So, you know, going forward, I will get this, I'm going to retune it, make sure everything's good to go, and give you guys some tone samples, but it's really not yet ready for full recording. I need to, and this is very typical for the price category, I'm going to need to take the strings off, level these frets, work on the neck, work on making sure everything's nice and level, and getting the action set appropriate so I can play all the frets, and there's none of that tinny, thumpy sound that you get from dead frets. Alright, so I've got it tuned up, got it plugged in, and getting some sound out of it. I'm not super impressed with these humbuckers. I think if I were really wanting to play live with this and really carry it forward, I would probably replace these humbuckers. They're fine. I'm on the bassman setting of my Fender Mustang. There are humbuckers out there that are like just cheapy, tinny. They have this like kind of squawky, muffled sound. They're not super cheapy sounding. They are competent, but I think a better set of pickups would really make this guitar shine. I'm already thinking, going through my mental inventory of what I've got in my bucket. I've got a nice DiMarzio pickup. I might put that in here. I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided where that's going. But this could definitely, I mean, with better pickups, I think this has a lot of potential. Like the frets, I'm not really playing too high on it right now because that's where most of the problem areas are. But I'm very impressed with it. I mean, even this is out of the box, you know, I haven't actually done any setup on it. The frets up here in the second register absolutely need work, but it plays very nicely. I mean, it plays very nicely. This is you know, good playing, and it looks beautiful. It's very nice craftsmanship. It's just it's a little rough around the edges, which is what I expect for a sub $200 guitar, especially with this much manufacturing and craftsmanship and materials and everything that went into it. Another thing I forgot to mention before is that if you look, so this is a detail-oriented thing. At a distance, looks fine. You see it's painted black on the inside, looks fine. But if you get in there and look at it, you see that the paint is only right there in the directly visible area, and otherwise you can see in there the rest of it is not actually painted. It's a small thing, but it is a detail that, you know, it doesn't just have that feeling of refinement and expertise, craftsmanship, and so forth. So, you know, this would be something I could potentially get in there and paint that wider rather easily, but you can see where the edge is, and it's kind of gloppy. It's just like they went slap, slap, slap with a little bit of paint, and it almost would have been better to just leave it unpainted. But that's another thing. And so this is where that's at, right? Like if you're looking at, you've got a sub $200 guitar versus like a PRS SE, you're going to run like $900+ depending on the finish and everything you get. So what is in that extra $700? A lot of that is the refinement of the guitar, that you're not going to find these sorts of errors. Generally speaking, I think the PRS SEs have excellent top-notch quality control, and this is a budget guitar. They're rushing them through. There's nothing overtly wrong with the aesthetics, but you look at it, and the more you look at it, you're like, oh, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and okay, I mean, that's what we have to expect for the price. But given those caveats, I think this is a tremendous value. Again, this IvyV inlay is a little bit overboard. Probably not going to be for everybody. I prefer the birds personally, just because I think they're classic and so forth, but it's cool, and as I mentioned before, they're well done. So this has a lot going for it, but it is not a play out of the box, right? This is a little more difficult, and it really needs the fretwork up here. You get that thunk, 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 and then you get the buzzing and the thunking. So all of this needs a good level, and it's, you know, rather easy to do, but it's just time. It's time that you're going to need to put into this in order to make it truly playable. But otherwise, I mean, I think if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to put that extra time into it, this is a really tremendous value and quite a stunning looking guitar for a really bargain basement price. So overall, you know, with caveats and with it's going to need a full setup, fretwork, and so forth, I think this is a really excellent deal, and you get a lot of well-made guitar for your money. So I'll end with just some tone comparisons, some tone examples. And again, this is out of the box, everything's stock, electronics, pickups, everything's, even the setup's still stock. Gotta forgive all that string buzzing. This is on the bridge, position 1. I gotta be careful, the frets are not great up here. Alright, middle pickup, or middle position, both pickups. Alright, and now neck pickup. Back a little bit. There's definitely a lot more bass response, noticeably different, which, you know, is nice. One of the things you sometimes find with cheaper humbucker sets is that you don't get a lot of distinction between them. And this, the trebles are almost whiny, they're so high I was having to knock back the treble tone control, and now with the bass is very heavy, so there is a noticeable and distinct difference between them, which is, you know, in their favor. Back in middle position, and now I've put some drive into it.